What's up y'all, and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we are going to be swatching and trying on every single blush that has released so far in 2024, and I am super pumped about this. I absolutely love blush next to eyeshadow. It is my favorite step in my makeup routine, but there have been a lot of blushes that have come out lately. It's a little bit overwhelming, so I wanted to do this video as sort of your shopping guide to blushes. Whether you're shopping, whether you're browsing, whether you're just curious about what's out there, let this be that video that you can reference back to. I'm going to warn you, this is going to be a very long video, so sit back, relax, grab a snack, take breaks if you need to. I know I did when I'm filming it, but if there's a blush that I did not mention in this video, let me know down in that comment section, because I do plan on doing a part 2 of this video towards the end of the year, kind of wrapping up the rest of the blushes that came out and picking up any little stragglers that I may have missed, and I would love to include it. I will have all the blushes time-stamped out down below, but they will be time-stamped by formulation, so powders, creams, and liquids, and then from there they will go in alphabetical order, so I figured you could kind of navigate it a little bit easier that way. I will also have every single blush listed and linked down below in the description box, as well as what I am wearing on my face. I only had this on for the intro and the outro. I filmed both of them after I filmed all the try-ons, so this will be going up as a short and a reel over on Instagram very shortly, probably later today, so keep your eyes peeled for that. But if you can't wait, it will be down that description box. Let's see if there's anything else I need to mention before we jump into this. Oh, I did use the exact same foundation and powder throughout the entirety of the video. I wanted to keep the variables as low as possible so you could see the performance of the blush, and I don't have anything else on my face other than that. But I think that's about all I have for this intro, so let's go ahead and jump into our blush swatches and try-ons. Alright, so let's go ahead and kick this off with powder blushes, because this is actually the smallest category that we have to chat about, and I feel like all the brands have really been focusing on creams and liquids. So those are going to be our big categories, and while I really do love a cream and liquid, my heart still lies with a powder blush. There's just something about it that they're easy, they're fuss-free. You don't have to worry about whether they're going to go on over or under powder products. You don't have to worry about blending them in. You don't have to worry about them patching or skipping. And while we haven't had a whole lot of powder releases come out this year, we've had some really good ones. So I'm going to go ahead and go in alphabetical order. We're going to do swatches, we're going to try them on the cheeks, and just kind of chat about the formula of them. So up first we have this from Dibs. This is the Duet Baked Blush Duo. This was actually a shade expansion from the brand, so existing product, but they brought us more shades, so that's why it's falling in here. I picked up the shade VIP Pink, and this is a really nice formula. So first of all, I like that you get two colors in here. It is a baked formulation, and these are very soft, very smooth. They do have a little bit of like a sheen to the skin whenever you put them on, but this is the pink shade, so keep in mind that this is a finger swatch. It's not going to be this intense on the cheek. And then this is the lavender shade, so not quite as purpley once you put it on, but keep in mind I do have cool undertones, so some of these blush shades might pull through a little bit different on my skin than they will on yours. But this is such a smooth, beautiful formula. I do really enjoy them individually and mixed together, but let's go ahead and try these on. So I only have two brushes that I'm going to be using. I'm going to be cleaning them off and kind of going back and forth. So I'm going to go in with my IT Cosmetics. This is actually one for Ulta, the Flawless brush, and I'm just going to kind of dip into both sides. We're going to tap it off just a little bit, and I'm going to show you what this looks like. So I always stipple first, and then once I've done that, I kind of go back and make sure that I blend it in. But it's definitely pigmented, but you can go in a little light-handed and it's not quite as intense, but it just looks so beautiful on the skin. I'm really impressed with this formula. I would love to pick up more from them, but you know, as long as the blush craze is still at its peak, I don't see me getting a whole lot of multiple shades in a lot of these formulas, but this is a really beautiful one if you've been looking at it. Up next, we have a new release, and this one comes to us from Dolce & Gabbana. These came out earlier this year. They came out with blushes, bronzers, skin tints, all of that. But this is the Cheeks and Eyes Match Lasting Blush and Eyeshadow powder. This is in the shade Joyful Peach, and this is another formula that really blew me away. The color in here is absolutely beautiful. It's definitely more peachy. It does lean a little bit more on the orangey side of the peach than the pinky side of the peach, but it is still a beautiful shade, and I was actually really impressed with this one. One, I feel like the price point of this blush for it being a luxury brand wasn't too bad. These retail for like $50 or $55, and Dolce & Gabbana, like I said, is a luxury house brand, so I expected it to be a lot more, and this is a really beautiful formula. It's also really pigmented for being a luxury brand, so I feel like this definitely kind of broke the mold of what we know from luxury formulas, and this is beautiful. So is this a necessity? No. Are there other ones out there that are like this? Yes, but if you want to dip your toes into luxury beauty, you want to have just a beautiful piece of makeup in your collection, because this component is beautiful, it is heavy, it is luxury. You do get a mirror in here, and you do get a good amount of product in here, and it is a really nice formula. But this is a good one, but again, I don't think it's anything that you need, but this is what the shade looks like, and we're gonna go ahead and try this one on the cheek. So I'm gonna pick it up with that same brush. I just wiped it off really good. The bristles are stained, but we're gonna go ahead and put this one on the other side of my cheek. So again, I'm just gonna stipple it. But look at that pigmentation right off the bat. It's not super pigmented. It's not going to give you anything like some of the One Size. Even if you have like the Blend Bunny palettes, those are really pigmented, but it's definitely more pigmented than what you expect from a luxury brand, and it is buildable. So I really enjoy that. And it also has almost this blurring effect on the cheek. It is a flat matte, so you're not gonna get a whole lot of sheen with this one, but you know, if you like a matte cheek, this is a really nice one. All right, so moving on to the more affordable end of the spectrum, we have the primer infused blushes from e.l.f. Now this one is, I believe, a reformulation and shade expansion. I could be wrong. It could be just a shade expansion. If you know, let us know down in that comment section, but I know it is definitely a shade expansion. I have the shade Always Rosy, and this really impressed me. This is such a good formula. To me, this one rivals the Dolce & Gabbana formula. So like I was saying, this is a really nice blush, but there's more affordable options out there that are just as beautiful. So let's give this one a little swatch. This feels so silky, so smooth. I love the pigmentation on these. They are very easy to work with, and they're just a beautiful blush. They definitely give a blurring effect to the cheek. The pigmentation lasts all day, but these are a flat matte. So again, if you are not a fan of a flat matte formula, this may not be for you, but these are buildable in pigmentation. So let's go ahead and pop this one on the cheek. All right, so that is what the blush looks like on the cheek. Absolutely beautiful. I have really been enjoying this. I definitely want to pick up more shades of this, and since it's super affordable, that's not like a hard thing to do, but this is such a good formula. I really have been enjoying it. I like the way that it looks on the skin. I do really enjoy the color selection as well. I think the shade expansion was a really good move for the brand, but something I think would be an even better move for the brand is they brought these out with more of like a sheen or a shimmer to them. I think that would be a really good move. Shimmery blushes have been super popular lately. Oh my gosh, I cannot speak today. Shimmer blushes have been super popular lately, and I think these would do really good if they had a little bit of something other than a flat matte to them. Up next, we have the Heaven's Glow blushes from M Cosmetics. Now, this is not a new formula. They did come out with a couple of new shades. I picked them up, so I figured they warranted a little, you know, spotlight in this video. So I'm going to swatch all these for you. I'm only going to try on one, and that's going to be the trend through all of these. If I have multiple shades, I will swatch all of the shades, but I'm not going to try on all of the shades, because we would be here forever. But these are two of their regular line blushes that they have, and then these two are limited edition. So let's go ahead and start with these over here. Again, this is a baked formula. I absolutely love this formula. It is so beautiful. I hate that the packaging is super clunky, but it's still very pretty at the same time. So I kind of have a love-hate relationship with it. But at first we have the shade Venetian Rose. This one is so beautiful. I really love this shade. I like this one a little bit more in my fall and winter months when I like to take my blush just a little bit deeper, but that is Venetian Rose. I'm sorry if I'm out of frame. I'm trying to make sure that you can see everything. Up next we have the shade Baroque, and this is another very popular one. This is a very neutral leaning blush, great for if you're not sure what direction you want to go with your makeup and things like that, but I really enjoy this one as well. So we're gonna put this one right there. These have a really nice sheen to them. They are very soft to the touch. They are very pigmented as well, but they also blend out super easily. The color lasts all day. They just look beautiful on the cheek. This is a really beautiful formulation. So the next two are going to be a limited edition shade. These are still available. I made sure of that before I threw them in here. So hopefully by the time this goes up, which should be tomorrow, these will still be available. But this is the shade Seraph, and this is that really pretty bright bubblegum pink that we've been seeing from every single brand, and I was so happy when they brought one out themselves because I really do enjoy this formula. I have used this one once and it's beautiful, but look at that shade. Oh, I love it. It kind of ran into Baroque, didn't it? But that's okay. And then the last one that we had is another limited edition one. This one is also still available, but this is the shade Elysium. I love that these ones come in like this really pretty pink packaging, but this is a really pretty peach blush. Goes with the Pantone color of the year, very on trend, and I have really been enjoying this shade on my eyes and on my cheeks. As long as it's not too orangey, I can definitely pull it off. But there is that shade right there. So we have Venetian Rose, Baroque, Seraph, and Elysium. That's the name of it. So which one do we want to try on the cheek? I think we're gonna try Elysium because I have used this one, but I haven't used it very much. So let's do Elysium on the cheek. Now I will warn you, these do get quite a bit of kick up in the pan, but it just kind of is what it is. So just make sure that you're really careful when you go in with your brush and tap it off. Wrong side, way to go in over here. See how soft that is right off the gate? It's not overly pigmented, but like I said, it is very buildable. So I'm going to go in with another layer. And then I'm just going to kind of blend it, make sure we don't have any harsh lines. I'm not applying quite as precise as I normally would, but that is what that shade looks like. You can see that little bit of sheen to the cheek. These are beautiful. Again, there's so many powder formulated blushes. It's really hard to make one that truly stands out. So a lot of them are very on par with each other, but when there's a bad one, there's definitely a bad one. From Fenty Beauty, we have the Hot Cheeks Velour Blush Lighter. Blush lighters have been very popular lately. They kind of walk that line of being a shimmery blush or being a highlighter. Depending on how they're formulated, a lot of brands have been doing them, and not all of them have succeeded in doing so, but the ones from Fenty I think are absolutely beautiful. Unfortunately, this is a limited release from the brand, but as of now, these are still currently available over at Sephora and on Ulta. I have not checked the Fenty website, but you could definitely check there as well. They only came out with 3 shades, but these are beautiful. The packaging is beautiful. I picked up the shade Fresh Peach, and this one is giving me Luminoso vibes. It's kind of between Luminoso and NARS Orgasm. This one has a little bit more of an orange flip to it, but I thought these were absolutely beautiful. So let's give this one a swatch. This is another baked formula. I absolutely love a baked formula with a blush. I feel like they are just so much easier to use. They go on nicer. Most of them have that nice little sheen to them, which is very flattering, especially if you have a little bit more mature skin. But if you have very textured skin, I would just be wary that some of them can emphasize that, but I don't see where that one does this. But look at how beautiful that is. I did turn the lights down just a smidge, so I'm hoping that you can see some of these better, but this one's beautiful. I really love this one. I know some people didn't, some people did. Again, all of this comes down to personal preference, so I'm trying to give you like my personal opinion as well as the facts so you can kind of make your own decisions. But let's put this one on the cheek. This one does have a lot of kick up in the pan as well, but you know, that doesn't really bother me. I don't mind a little bit of kick up. Now these are lightly pigmented right out the gate. They don't go on super stark like some other ones that we will see coming up very soon, but they are buildable and they just leave this really pretty sheen on the skin. I actually love to wear these over a matte blush. So if something is super matte, but I want that pigmentation, these look really nice layered over top because again, they're not super pigmented, but they just add this really pretty flush of color, this really pretty sheen, and you can pile them on. You can go really heavy-handed, go crazy, and you're not gonna get a whole lot of like, what do they call it? Blush blindness, that's what they call it. You're not gonna get that with these, but I thought these were absolutely beautiful. It's one of those that you don't need to put a highlighter on over. You absolutely can. You can be extra. You can do whatever you want. There's no rules in makeup, but you don't need to. And you can see when the light hits it, I'm hoping you can see it, that there's just sort of like that gold gleam with this one. From Guerlain, we have the Terracotta blushes. These were a new release this year. From my knowledge, the brand did not have blushes. Maybe they did like way in the past, but these are new. I was really excited about these. I do enjoy a lot of different products from Guerlain, but I will be honest, these fell a little bit flat for me. So the packaging is beautiful. It does have that really pretty detailing in there when the light hits it. This is in the shade light coral. They came out with 3 light shades and 3 deeper shades, and this is okay. It does have a little bit of a sheen to it, but again, it's not, the pigmentation isn't there. Like, it takes a lot to build up with this one. You can see even with that finger swatch, it's just very lightly pigmented. Of course, I could have gotten one of the darker ones, but I didn't really know what to expect. I ordered it online. So if you're interested in this one, I would definitely say go into the store and swatch it out, because I find the lighter ones to be a little too light, but it is still very pretty on the skin. I just don't think that you need to spend the, what is this, like $60–65? That could be overshooting it, but I don't think that you need to spend the money on this one because it's just, I don't know, it's not anything special. It was a little bit disappointing. I said in my speed reviews video with this one, it's nice, I'll use it, I like that I have it, but I don't feel like I need to go out and purchase the rest of the shades. Whereas like the one from Dolce & Gabbana, I would love to have them all, but again, still a little bit pricey, but for a luxury brand, that one's not super pricey. But you can see it's definitely buildable in pigmentation. But again, I get that same kind of effect like from the e.l.f. one that we tried on, and some of these other ones that you will see. We've done a lot of baked blushes so far, but there's just other ones for a lower price point that you're gonna get the same kind of effect, the same formulation, and it's just not anything special, even though it is very pretty. Up next, we had the Color Fuse blushes from Haus Labs. Now, this is not a reformulation, but this is a re-release with sort of a shade expansion. We got the ones that they originally had, not all of them, but a majority of them. And then she gave us a couple of new shades as well in a smaller color coordinated packaging. So I did not realize, as I think many people did not, when these were first released, these were a limited edition blush, and they actually came in this bigger packaging right here. This is the shade Lavender Blonde that they did not bring back. I I wish they had, but this is what they originally looked like. And then whenever she re-released them, I guess they figured that this was kind of like a money pit, that they were kind of losing on the money scheme of things. So they brought us back the same shades, same formula, but smaller packaging. I do appreciate that we have the color on the front so you know what you're grabbing for, but definitely a vast difference. The original ones were, let's see if I can even read the back of this, 11 grams of products, and the new ones are 5 grams of product, and these were only a little bit less expensive. So if you have the original one in any of these colors, you don't need to run out and buy the new ones, but they did come out, like I said, with a couple of new shades. So if you're interested in those, it is the same great formula. But I have the shade Watermelon Bliss, and I have the shade French Rosette as well. French Rosette was one of the newer shades. I believe the other one was called Fire Opal or something like that. I never got around to picking it up, but these are beautiful. This is one of my favorite matte blush formulas on the market. Another one that I really love are the Too Faced Cloud Crush blushes. Those are beautiful as well, but those are not a new release for this year, but these are absolutely beautiful. I really do love them. Again, they are a matte formula. They are a little bit more on the pigmented side, but they're not as pigmented, I feel, as everybody makes them out to be. But again, that also comes down to the color that you choose. So let's do a swatch of each of these really quick. So up first we have the shade French Rosette. And that's what that one looks like. You can definitely tell from all of these I have a type when it comes to a blush, but this is more of like a rosy mauvey shade. Very dusty, very beautiful, very everyday. And the other shade that we got is called Watermelon Bliss. This is a really pretty red blush. I don't have a lot of red blushes in my collection. I feel like they either look really good on me or they don't look really good on me, but this one I feel like looks really good on me. So we are going to try this one on the cheek today. Let me just wipe off my fingers, pick up my brush, and let's do this. So with this shade, I feel like less is more. It is a little bit more pigmented, so definitely one of those where the lighter shades aren't quite as overly pigmented, but these brighter ones are. They have a bright pink one as well, and from what I've heard, that one is super pigmented, but look at how beautiful that is. Even with being pigmented, it blends out beautifully. You can definitely go in lighter and softer and get just this really pretty red blush. I love these. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and build this up just a little bit so you can see what it looks like if you do decide to build it up. I'm not trying to blend this out really nicely. My makeup's starting to cake up because I'm removing and reapplying, so, but you get the gist of it. But these are beautiful. I'm so glad that they brought these back, and I would love another shade expansion from the brand. I would love it if they would bring back Lavender Blonde. That was one of my favorites. I would love to recommend that to so many people, but you can't get it. And I would also love it if they had a little bit of a sheen in some of these. I really do love a blush that just has a soft sheen to it. I love all blushes, but I feel like one with a soft sheen is like my perfect blush formula. Up next, we have one of my favorite blush releases of the year, and that is the Kosas Blush is Life Baked Blushes. These are absolutely beautiful. This is one of my favorite baked blush formulas on the market. Keep in mind, I have not tried every single one of them, so if you have a baked blush in mind that you love even more, let me know. I love a good recommendation. I love to hear from y'all, but I have two shades of these. So I have the shade Hype, which is this really pretty pinky shade. So let's give this one a swatch. I love that these have like a marbled texture to them. They are very smooth. They feel very nice when you rub your finger in here. And let's do a swatch right here of this one. Now these ones, I feel like they have a little bit more sheen than the ones from Dibs, but not as much sheen as the one from M Cosmetics. So this is more of like a happy medium, but these are beautiful. This is such a good formulation. I'm really curious to see how long these last because the shelf life on these is 12 months. Kosas is a clean beauty brand, and a lot of people have had issues with their products I can't get this open, with their products going bad really, really fast. I haven't experienced that yet with their powder products. I have with their cream products. So I'm interested to see how long these are gonna last. But this is the shade Euphoria. Look at how gorgeous that is. Again, the marbleization in there. And this one is more of a deep berry shade, something that again, I will get a lot of use out of in the more, like cooler winter fall months, but absolutely stunning. So which one do we want to try on the cheek with this one? I think we're gonna go with Euphoria. I don't know why I almost said Elysium. All these names kind of start to run together after you've been trying them on and looking at them for so long. But let's go ahead and go into Euphoria. These do not have a lot of kick up in the pan. These are super easy to work with. They have good pigmentation to them. They do have good pigmentation to them. Again, they are buildable. Words are very hard when you've been talking for a while. These are so beautiful. I feel like these are extremely underhyped, underappreciated. They're not talked about enough because look at how beautiful that looks on the cheek. Again, that really nice sheen, almost a little similar to the one from Fenty Beauty, but that definitely has a little bit more sparkle to it, but you're still gonna kind of get that same vibe. Up next, we have a reformulation. These come to us from NARS. They reformulated all of their classic blushes to be talc-free, which I love. I'm 100% on board with, but I don't think these quite hit the mark, more so the shimmery ones than the matte ones. I only picked up minis of 2 different shades, so it could be the fact that they're minis. I might need to swatch them in store and see, but based off of what I have here, I'm not impressed with the shimmer ones, and personally I feel like your formula should be the same across the board, whether it's a mini or a full size. So we're just gonna go with what I have. So up first, I did pick up the classic shade called Orgasm, and this is what it looks like. It has that little gold sheen to it. You can see mine already has some hard pan in there. I've only used this a handful of times, and I found this to be very gritty in the pan, very hard to pick up, and just not as good as what I remembered. I had an original Orgasm in my collection like years and years and years ago, and I did really enjoy it. It was never like my favorite blush, but I did really like it, and I just don't remember it coming out so lightly pigmented, and I don't remember it being super gritty, but that is what the reformulated Orgasm looks like. And then I also picked up the shade Orgasm Edge. I hate the names of these. They are so cringy. I don't understand why we have to do this. But this is a matte version of it, so it's got that same undertone to it. It just doesn't have that gold flip. And this feels so creamy and so nice whenever I swatch it out. It picks up beautifully. It is pigmented. I really like the new formulation of the matte blushes. It's just the shimmer ones that don't do it for me. Again, it could be the one that I got, but just from my experience and from a couple of other people that I've kind of watched and seen their opinion on, they weren't too keen on the reformulation of the shimmery blushes either. But we're gonna go ahead and try on both of these. So I'm gonna do a little bit of this one kind of towards the back of my cheek, and then we're gonna do this one towards the front of the cheek. So I'm gonna go ahead and start with NARS Orgasm Edge. This is a beautiful color too. I really do like this one. This is one that I could definitely see myself picking up a full size whenever or if I ever hit pan on this one. I just think it's a really beautiful everyday pinky peach shade. It's very flattering on the skin. The pigmentation is there, but again, it's more on the buildable side, so it's not going to be super overwhelming. But I will say that these little ones, they're kind of hard to get your brush into and pick up the product just because they are so small and the brush is so big. But look at how beautiful that is. I love it. All right, so next we're going to go in with the classic Orgasm and hope that I can pick this up. I have a really hard time picking this up on my brush. I've used a denser brush, I've used a natural hair brush, and it just doesn't perform the way that I remember Orgasm performing. But we're going to try anyway. I don't even know if you can see anything on the cheek. Like, I feel like this really is doing absolutely nothing. And that's the way I have felt from day one with this one. Very underwhelming. Yeah, not a fan. So in my opinion, if you're gonna pick up any of the new NARS blushes, go for the matte ones over the shimmer ones, but I think I definitely will try and pick up another one and see if it's just the one that I have. So maybe to be continued, maybe we will revisit this one in the next video like this, because I definitely want to do another one at the end of the year with all the other new blush releases that we've had, because they are coming. I know they're coming because there's several of them that are literally on their way to me right now. But let's go ahead and move on to our next one. So this one I kind of debated whether or not to put in here, but it is a new shade, it is a new blush, and this is the Natasha Denona My Mini Dream Glow Blush. So this one I really like. One, I like the tone in here. I like that you get two mattes and then you get the shimmer. So you could definitely go into each individual one and get like a deeper blush. You can get a lighter blush. You can use this as a highlighter. You can mix everything together and get you a good glowy blush. You can kind of create your own concoction with this, and I really did enjoy the formula. So let's go ahead and swatch these out. I'm going to start with the darker shade right here. These are so creamy, they are pigmented, they are beautiful. Look at that really pretty, like, deeper neutral shade. Really enjoy that one. We're going to go into this little middle section right here. We're going to swatch that one out right there. So again, another neutral blush, but not quite as deep as this one over here. Personally, I like to take my brush and just swirl it in the whole thing. So I think that's what I'm going to do. But let me give you a little swatch of the highlighter. Since we are here, might as well. I'm going to do the highlighter over here. And that's what the highlighter looks like. It is very beautiful on its own. It is very beaming. It melts into the skin. It's not gritty. It doesn't have any like glitter in it. So that's the highlighter. And then these are the two blush shades right there. But let's go ahead and dip our brush in here. I'm just gonna mix them all together and put it on the cheek. Give me a nice glowy cheek. So I'm just kind of turning my brush and getting in there really well. All right, so there we have it. Very pretty. You see, once you kind of mix that highlighter in there, it's not quite as intense. It definitely has this beautiful sheen. Of course, you can go in a little bit heavier handed with the highlighter and make it as glowy as you want. I love that you can kind of do whatever you want with this one. It's like an all-in-one. It's cute, it's tiny, it's more affordable from the brand. And if you're someone who has a larger collection, mini blushes are perfect. I love a mini blush. They make me so happy when a brand comes out with a mini one, but unfortunately we don't always get those. Another favorite powder blush release from the year is going to come to us from NYX. These are the Buttermelt blushes. They first came out with bronzers and then they brought us blushes, and these are beautiful. The only thing that I'm kind of not a fan of is the shade range. They all kind of lean very pinky. We didn't get a whole lot of variety. We got a ton of shades, but they're all kind of come out the same once you come down to it. But I did pick up 3 of these, and these are such a good formulation. They smell really nicely, so keep in mind these do have a fragrance to them, and they are extremely pigmented, so less is more. Go in with a light hand. But let's swatch out the shades that I picked up. So up first we have the shade Getting Butta. It always cracks me up to say these because they're always some sort of pun on the word Butta. And this one is, I believe, yes, this is a shimmer blush. So let's go ahead and swatch this one out on the back of the hand. These do feel very nice, very creamy. The packaging is nice and sturdy, but look at how pigmented that is. Gorgeous hot pink. It does look really nice, but again, light hand. The next one that we have is going to be Butta Together. And this one is a really pretty like baby pink shade. This one is, I believe, this one has more of a satin finish too, so it's not going to be a full-on shimmer. But again, feels really soft, very smooth, pigmented, and it does have that fragrance to it. But that is what that shade looks like. And then the last one that we have is the shade You Know Butter. And this one has that gold flip to it. This one is very, very pretty. It is definitely more on that corally side. So it's giving the same vibes as Luminoso and Orgasm, but not the same tone, but it has that gold flip to it. That's what I mean by the same vibes. And this one is very pretty as well. So we're gonna swatch that one right there. So those are the 3 shades that I picked up. This one is probably the most matte of all of them. None of them are a flat matte, but this one's going to give you like the least shimmer in your finish. But which one do we want to try on with these ones? I think we're gonna go in with this one right here because it's the lightest one, and I want to show y'all how pigmented these actually are. I know a lot of people don't like a super pigmented blush. I 100% get it, but this is still a beautiful formula. And less is more. They are super affordable. These are 10 bucks, and you can't beat that for a blush that performs like a high-end blush. All right, so that is me just putting the shade on really quick. It is grabbing up here. I don't think I put more foundation right there, but that's not the formula. That is my skin. All right, so that is what the shade looks like. I didn't put on a whole lot. I did go in a little heavier handed than what I normally would, just because I wanted the camera to pick up and I really wanted y'all to be able to see the shade. But look how beautiful that looks on the skin. Like, it's not grabbing, it's not patching, it's not emphasizing texture. Granted, I don't have a whole lot of texture, but I have had some formulas that they find texture. I don't know if they come with texture or what, but this is just beautiful on the skin, and really you can't beat that price point. All right, so we have come to our first indie brand at the video. These are the Odin's Eye blushes that recently launched with the Solmane 2 collection. They did have blushes in their previous Solmane collection, but those have been sold out for a really long time. I do have 2 of them in my collection, but I pulled out the ones that are still available and are new. So they came out with 3 blushes. I only picked up 2 of them. The first one is going to be Pink Bloom. This is one of their matte blushes. This is absolutely beautiful. I did use this in my Odin's Eye video testing the collection, and this is a really pretty color. Very, very pigmented, but beautiful. I don't think these are quite as pigmented. Let's go down here. Quite as pigmented as the ones that they had in the previous collection, but they are still beautiful nonetheless. I like the embossing. I just really enjoy this formula. I wish that they would bring back the old ones and that they would give us more shades, but that is the shade Pink Bloom. And then the other one is a shimmer blush. This is the one that arrived to me broken, and literally right before I sat down to film this one, it came in the mail. So perfect timing. I was hoping that it would, but this one is the shade Solar Eclipse, and it's actually 2 shades in one. This looks very shimmery, so I was curious about it. I wanted to know if it was going to kind of sheer out and give a little bit of a softer effect than what it looks like in here, or is this going to give us Rare Beauty vibes? So I have not touched this, I have not swatched it, I have not done anything. Look at how beautiful that is, like absolutely stunning. So we're gonna do 2 swatches really quick. We're gonna do the more pinky side, and then we're gonna do the more orangey side as well. And we're gonna go, gosh, I didn't even think this through very well. We're gonna go right here. So this is the more orangey one, and holy smokes, that is so incredibly shimmery. And then this is the more pinky one. Super shimmery as well. I can see sort of the glitter particles flying around. So I think these ones are more along the lines of the highlighters that they released with this collection. So I don't think they're going to be my cup of tea. I'm going to treat these more like a blush topper, and we're gonna try them on because that's what we're here to do. So let's go ahead and start with the matte one in the shade Pink Bloom, but let me go ahead and clean my fingers off real quick before I get glitter and shimmer everywhere. All right, let's jump into this. So we're gonna start with the shade Pink Bloom, which is this one right here. This is our matte blush. So I'm going to apply this one first. Now I do think that the matte formula is absolutely beautiful. I do really love it. I love the two that I have, and I'm so happy to have this one. I might, if it's still available when they have their next release, order the other shade as well. That one looked a little bit brighter, but that is the shade Pink Blooms. Is it Pink Bloom? Pink Bloom on my cheek. So very soft, definitely more pigmented than the other formulations that we've seen, but not the most pigmented that I have seen from an indie brand. So if you're looking for a good blush formula from an indie brand, keep in mind these are limited as far as the color selection goes. This is a beautiful formula. Another brand that has a beautiful formula, a little off topic, but since we're here, are the ones from Kaleidos, if you can find a shade that you like. But let's dive into Solar Eclipse. This one, again, makes me nervous because it is super, super shimmery. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pick up a different brush for this, just because I don't want to ruin this one for the rest of the video. So I'm going to go in with this one from Blinged Brushes. That way it can be glittery and I'll clean it later. So I'm going to go in and just kind of tap around the whole thing, picking up the product. Here we go, y'all. Doing it for y'all. Keep that in mind. Ooh, yeah, definitely glittery, but I will say that does look really pretty on the cheek. It doesn't seem quite as harsh as the highlighter, but I did feel like the glitter particles kind of disperse whenever I put it on my cheek. And I don't think this is anything that I would personally wear as a blush, but if you don't mind a little bit of glitter and shimmer, this is a really pretty blush topper. So not my favorite, but I'm still not mad about it either. I'm kind of on the fence with this one. That's prettier than what I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be just a glittery mess, and here I am putting more on over top. Why? I don't know, because I don't like glitter, but okay. That's pretty if this is your jam. From REM Beauty, we had these satin matte blushes. These came out earlier this year, and these are really nice. They're nothing innovative or groundbreaking. It's hard to kind of come up with a new formula when it comes to a powder blush formula, but these are really pretty. I enjoy the shade range. I like the way they look on the skin. They're pigmented, they're soft, they do have a blurring effect, and they are a satin finish. So they're not a flat on matte, but they're not going to give you a lot of shimmer either. I have the shade Skinny Dipped, and this is really pretty. Again, it's more of that rosy pink shade, very soft, very silky to the touch, and this is what the shade looks like on my skin. So you can definitely see it has that little bit of a sheen to it. Nothing sparkly, but still very pretty. So let's go ahead and put this one on the cheek. All right, so that is what the shade looks like on. Very pretty. I like this formula. It's just a good, reliable formula. They didn't reinvent the wheel with this one, but I like that it's simple to use. It's effortless. You don't have to worry about trying to build up and build up to get the pigmentation. You don't have to worry about going in with a super light hand and trying to figure out how you're going to rectify the situation once you have it on. This is a beautiful formula. It is one of my favorite powder blush releases of the year. Like I said, there have been a lot of them. Several of them have been very good, but only a few of them have really stood out to me, and I like this one. I definitely want to pick up more shades from it. It is on my list. Maybe when there's a sale or something like that I can, or maybe when our blush releases slow down, but these are a good one. They are more on the affordable side, but they are still on like that high-end side of beauty, if you know what I mean. So really, really good one. I love those. Last but not least, we have these little guys from Rare Beauty. These were all the rage when they came out. I feel like they went super viral very quickly before anybody had them in their hands. They were super anticipated, and I was very disappointed. Very disappointed. I think if she had taken down the shimmer in these, or maybe even given us a satin finish, these would have been a bigger hit than what they are. I feel like they're popular because they're Selena Gomez. That's just kind of the way I feel about it. I love Selena Gomez. I'm a fan, but I feel like everything she touches is wildly popular, and I don't think that these are as good as what everybody expected. But let's chat about them. So these are the powder blushes. So I picked up the shade Cheer. This is like Selena's favorite shade, her special shade, and it looks very pretty in here, but this gives me highlighter vibes 100%. So it's very soft and silky to the touch, but look at that shimmer and that glow on the finger. These are supposed to be a cross between her liquid blush and her highlighter, so that's exactly what we got, but I don't think it's what we needed. So this does look very pretty. It is nice on the cheeks. It is a little too glowy. It can be very intense. The darker shades I feel like are more intense than the lighter ones, and I'm not just saying that because I have a fair skin tone. They're just more pigmented. But that is what the shade Cheer looks like. And then I also picked up another shade as well. I picked up the shade Love, and I kind of wish I had just picked up the one, but this is the shade Love. This is very dark. I thought the color was pretty, and I do like the color. It's what I gravitate towards for like the fall and winter months, but this is really, really hard for me to pull off. So let's do a swatch of this one right here. And that is what that one looks like. So definitely giving me highlighter vibes, and I have very, very mixed feelings on this. So again, I think they are way more popular and viral than what they should be, but I don't think they're awful either. So I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna kind of do both of them. So I'm gonna start with the shade Love, and I'm gonna do that one more towards the back of my cheek, just so I can show y'all what I'm talking about as far as the pigmentation goes. So we're going to work this onto the skin, and while the shade is very pretty, look at how glowy that is. It is literally like I picked up a highlighter and put it all over my cheek. I feel like because of how shimmery it is, it looks like it's patching and grabbing, but whenever I get up close and the light hits it certain ways, it looks just fine. So a little bit more of a finicky formula. I definitely think this looks very pretty over a matte blush, just very lightly kind of topped over, or, you know, depending on your skin tone, you can use these as a highlighter. I think these are very pretty for like inner corners, tapped on the lids, things like that. So if you picked them up and these were too intense for you, there are other ways that you can use them. But let's go in with the shade Cheer, because this one is a little easier for me to pull off. It is still way too shimmery for my liking, but it's definitely easier to pull off, but just not my cup of tea. I feel like we should have gotten a matte or a satin finish blush from her. I know I've already said that. I sound like a broken record, but this is me standing on my soapbox because I was extremely disappointed in these, but that's what those two shades look like. Let's go ahead and dive into cream blushes. So I have never been a huge fan of cream blushes. I have tried many of them in the past, but I think my issue was I never found that perfect formula for me. And with all the releases this year, I have definitely found some new favorites. I have become a huge fan of cream blush. So let's go through the ones that we have. This is definitely more on par with the releases that we've had in the powder blush category. The liquids is where it gets a little bit crazy. But again, we're gonna go through this in alphabetical order, and we're going to kick things off with the ColourPop cream blushes. This one is backwards, so sorry, but they do have another cream blush formula. I don't know if it's the same one or not. I'm assuming it is, but I only have these two from the ColourPop Pokemon collection. I will definitely pick up one or two of their other cream blushes, and we'll kind of revisit these in the next blush video that I have coming out at the end of the year, where we will kind of catch up on the rest of the releases that have happened since this one. But for now, we're going to start with the ColourPop Pokemon collection. Up first, we have the shade Metronome. There was actually 3 shades released in this. I did not pick up the purple one, and I kind of wish I had because it's beautiful. But this is a very creamy formula. It's almost like a putty formula. It's not quite super stiff, but very putty. It does kind of dry over the top layer, so you just have to warm it up with your finger. But these are so beautiful. Immediately when you swatch it, it feels very silky and powder-like. So for all of my oily skin friends out there, this is a really good formula for that. So if you find a lot of blushes to be too creamy or balmy, this is a really good one. I think it's gonna hold up nicely on oily skin. But then we also have the shade Electra Ball. So again, same formula. Now this one looks like a bright red in the pan, but you'll see whenever I swatch it out, it is definitely more on like that hot pink side of things. And once you kind of blend both of these shades out on the cheek, they look very similar. So I don't think you need both unless you are a huge Pokemon fan and you just want to have all of them for your collection. But if you're looking for one really good pink shade, I don't think you need both of them. But let's go ahead and try this on the cheek. We are gonna do the shade Electra Ball. Now I do have on the same foundation and powder that I have been using through the duration of this video, and I decided to go ahead and try on all the creams and liquids over a powdered face because I've said it before, in order for a cream or powder formula or a cream or liquid formula to be an absolute favorite of mine, it has to perform both under and over powder products. So I figured why not just go in and just do everything over powder so I can show you how they truly perform, because I feel like that's how a lot of us, maybe not everybody, I'm not saying everybody does, but I feel a lot of us powder our face, especially if we are in a hot, humid climate and you want your product to perform over and under powder. So that's what we're gonna do. So like I said, I'm going to go in with the shade Electra Ball, and for my two brushes for this one, I have the BK Beauty 109 brush, and then I also have my Sigma F08 Precision Powder Brush. So these are the two that I'm going to be going back and forth with. So let's put this one on the cheek. I find this one performs really nicely both over and under powder products. I like the pigmentation of it. I like the performance of it. It is a little pigmented right out the gate, which you can see, but you'll see I am able to blend it out, manipulate it, and kind of take down that harshness of it. Again, I am stippling all of these on. I don't want to move the product underneath because I feel like no matter what the formulation is, if you start going in and swiping, you're gonna move everything underneath. It just kind of is what it is. But since this dries down to that more powdery finish, it's going to mesh a little bit better with your powder products. It's going to lay nicer. It's going to give kind of a blurring effect. And these are beautiful. Look how nice that looks like on the cheek. It does have a slight sheen to it, just kind of like when the light hits it, it just kind of bounces off the high points of your cheek. It's not a shimmer or a glimmer, but still very pretty. Up next, I have one of the Yummy Skin Blurring Blush Bombs from Danessa Myricks. These came out last year, but she did bring us a couple of new shades this year. I did not pick them up, but I still figured we could revisit this as far as formulation goes in case you didn't pick these up before and you like the new shades and you're curious to know what they're all about. So this is a very beautiful formula. I do really like it. I will say it is on the pigmented side. Again, it's another one you kind of have to reactivate it with the warmth of your skin. Now this one definitely feels a little bit creamier than the one from ColourPop, and it doesn't have that same dries down to a powder. It definitely has a more creamier finish when you put it on the skin, but it does eventually dry down. I don't find that it moves or does anything weird, and I have seen a lot of people with like oily skin really enjoy this formula, and I do like it. My only issue is that these are so pigmented, and I find a lot the shade range is not the most friendly for fair skin tone. So that's why I only have the one. That's why I haven't picked up any new ones, just because they're a little too much for my skin tone. So I would love it if she would bring out some maybe lighter base shades, maybe some more neutrals, things like that for some of us fair tone girlies. But this one in the shade Rosé and Brunch is absolutely beautiful. I do really enjoy this one. So let's go ahead and apply this one to the cheek. A little bit goes a long way. Like I hardly dabbed in, but this is such a good formula. I really do enjoy this. This has, what's that stuff in it? The Upsolite in it, which is supposed to help control oils. So again, my oily skin friends, this is a really nice one. But I will say, if you are new into creams or liquids, This is probably not the most user-friendly formula right off the bat. I definitely think you need to have a little bit of experience with a cream formula, but it's not the hardest to work with either. All right, so that is what the shade looks like. Ignore the blending. I've been doing this for a while, so I'm not trying to like fully put it on the way that I would put my blush on a normal basis. I'm just trying to show you what the pigmentation is like, how it does sheer out a little bit, and that it's not picking up, grabbing, or moving any of the product. But very beautiful. I do really like the shade. Again, I just want some other shades that I can pull off. She did come out with a new one that's a little bit more of like that hot pink shade. I might try and swatch that one in store, and if I think that one will work for my skin tone, I might pick that one up. But this is a beautiful, beautiful formula. I absolutely love it. I just want more shades. All right, from Haus Labs, we have the Color Fuse Glassy Blush Balms. That is very hard to say. It's a tongue twister for sure. And this was a formula that came out very recently, and I was a little skeptical about it just because it is a balmy formula. Balmy formulas can either be really, really good or they can be really, really bad, depending on how balmy they actually are. But this one I think is absolutely beautiful. So this is in the shade Glassy Hibiscus. I'm gonna give it a little swatch right here. And as far as a balmy formula goes, it definitely has that glass-like finish to it, but it's definitely a little bit more on that creamy side. So it's not going to be anything like whenever I think of something that's balmy, I automatically go to the Jones Road balms. You know what I'm talking about. I can't think of the name of them, but that's automatically what I go to. Something very sticky, something very almost Vaseline-like. So that's kind of what I had in mind for this one, and that is definitely not it. But this is absolutely beautiful. If you have sort of combination skin, I think this is going to be really nice. But if you have very oily skin, this may not be a good formula for you because it is a little bit more on that creamy wet side. It doesn't fully dry down, but we're gonna go ahead and put this one on the cheek. So with a stick formula, I either like to put it on the back of my hand and pick it up from there, or go in with my brush. So I'm gonna kind of do a combination of both. I don't like to swipe these on my cheek, even when my cheek isn't powdered. It kind of moves everything around because you're gliding it across the cheek. But let's go ahead and start putting this on over here. Now these are not nearly as pigmented as her powder formula is, but they are still very beautiful. I like the shade range of these. I think they're definitely unique. There's a couple of shades I really wanted, but man oh man did they sell out really quick. But look at how beautiful that is. You see how it just has sort of that glossy glass-like finish to it. Very pretty, but it also didn't move any product underneath. Again, I am going in with a stippling effect. I'm not swiping anything across my face. And I also don't use a sponge to apply my blushes. I feel like a sponge absorbs a lot of the product and you just don't get that full color payoff, and you end up kind of moving things around a little bit more because generally your sponge is a little bit damp. But these are really nice. So they build up really nicely. You can definitely pile them on top and keep building the pigmentation, and it's not going to start to lift or grab when you do that. So beautiful formula. I do really like these. I think these are a really nice release from the brand, and it makes me wonder if they are on the train to come out with a liquid blush sometime very soon. Our next one comes to us from Iconic London. These are the Blurring Blush Sticks, and this one really caught my attention. I have fallen in love with these. These are definitely more of like that cream to powder formula, but they are beautiful. I love the way these look on the skin. I love the way they go on. There's only 3 of them. I have the shade Daiquiri, and these are just beautiful because they do dry down to a powder finish, but you have a little bit more time to kind of move the product around and blend it before it does fully dry down. But look at that shade. I think that shade is absolutely gorgeous. So let's go ahead and put this one on the other cheek. So I'm going to pick this one up with my brush, and we're just going to start to stipple this on the the cheek. Now these are definitely more of a buildable pigmentation, so they're not going to be super pigmented off the bat like the House Labs one was. You definitely have to build these up a little bit more, but like I said, they don't dry down to that powder finish super quick, so you definitely have a little bit more work time before it's not going to budge, because these do not move. These stay all day. They are pigmented all day. I don't find that I lose pigmentation. I don't find that they fade throughout the day. I really love these. I have been wildly impressed with Iconic London this year. I've picked up a couple of their products and all of them have been new favorites. All right, from Kaja, we have the Dewy Blush Bars. These are beautiful. These are really, really nice, but these are not powder friendly. So these are something that I will get more use of in our cooler months whenever I don't powder my face. I have to powder my face in the summer here because it is very hot, very humid. Everything will melt off. But when we kind of step away from that humidity a little bit, it's a little cooler outside, I like to go in with a very light skin tint and just a lot of cream products, and these work great for that. So for all of my oily people out there who powder their face every single day, these are not going to work over powder, but they do layer beautifully. So if you put on enough of this, it will definitely peek through a translucent powder, not a powder foundation, but something that is lightly pigmented or translucent. These will peek through, and you can also layer another blush on over top of them. But let's go ahead and do these two. So I have Grapefruit Gelato, and they are in like that twist up sort of deodorant style packaging, and this is what that one looks like. So you can see very balmy, very shiny. I like this color though, it's very beautiful, and I do really enjoy these. I gave these a really good review in my speed reviews and I stand by that, but again, they're not going to work very well over powder. Sometimes they do, but I find that it's just better not to. But this one is the shade Strawberry Sorbet. That is a horrible swatch. Like, what are you doing? But that is what that shade looks like. So again, you can just see how balmy these are. These do not dry down. These stay balmy, but let's go ahead and do this for science. So this is the shade Strawberry Sorbet. I am going to pick this up with my brush, and I'm going to put this on the cheek. So very pigmented. I don't know if I said that already. But if you get like really close, you can see that it's starting to patch like right around here. It's lifted the makeup just a little bit. But if I go back and just kind of keep pressing over top, I can kind of rectify that a little bit, but you know, it's better to just stay away from them and not do that. But I did go in very heavy-handed because honestly, I forgot how pigmented these are. I knew they were pigmented, but I forgot they were this pigmented, but still. Beautiful formula, do really love it. Just keep in mind, this is not going to be your best friend when it comes to applying it over powder products. All right, next we have one that I haven't even opened. This one has been sitting over here for a while and I never found a way to kind of incorporate it everything. This one is from Kylie Cosmetics. This is the powder blush stick. I got this one because I was curious about it. It has kind of the same claim as the ones from Polite Society. We will get to these ones later, but it has that same claim of it is a powder to cream formula. So it intrigued me. I was curious about it, and a lot of people are fans of Kylie Cosmetics. I don't have anything against her. Nothing has ever really appealed to me, but this is in the shade Meet Me There. The packaging is very cute. This does feel a little on the cheapy side, but it doesn't feel awful. But this is what the product looks like. So we have that same sort of twist up right here, and I want to, okay, see, this feels really creamy compared to the one from Polite Society. So I'm curious to see how this is going to dry down on the skin. So I'm gonna do a little swatch right here. That is what it looks like. I'm hoping this dries down to a powder finish because it didn't go on as a powdery finish, but that's what it's supposed to do. At least that's kind of what was being thrown out there and tossed around on her Instagram when she released these. But let's go ahead and apply this to the cheek and see what this is going to do. So again, I have never tried this before. This is the first time I'm even opening it. I know that's a little pathetic, but like I said, we've had a ton of blush formulas come out. All right, so let's go ahead and apply this to the cheek. All right, so lightly pigmented, like super lightly pigmented. Let's try picking it up from the back of the hand because I'm not getting a whole lot from that. All right. Okay, that's better. So you really just kind of have to build up that product and then tap it out. And that is going on really nicely. I don't see where it's lifting product underneath. It is very light. Let's see how this builds up because I definitely think you're going to have to build up if you want a little bit of pigmentation to it. All right, so it's buildable. It doesn't seem to be lifting the product underneath, so that's nice, that's promising. But I wanna see, is this going to dry down? Because my hair is sticking to it. So, that's a big issue. So I'm gonna give this just like a couple of minutes and see what this does. All right, so this has been on for a couple of minutes and it does seem to have dried down a little bit, but I wouldn't say it dried down to a powdery finish. And I even went and looked on the packaging because I was like, did I read that wrong? Did I hear that wrong? And it says right here, powder blush stick. So in my mind, that means that you're going to be a cream to powder, and it's not giving me that, but it's also not sticky or tacky, but it does have that sheen to it. I do think it looks really pretty on the cheek, so I do really like this. I think it's nice. I just don't think that if you're going into this with the expectation that it's going to be a cream to powder, you are going to be disappointed. I think if you have super oily skin, proceed with caution. That's all I'm getting at. But I do think this is really pretty. I like the formulation of it. I like the pigmentation of it. I like that it's a little bit softer, a little bit more buildable. Okay, I see you, Kylie Cosmetics. I'm impressed with that one. Up next, we have the Pinch My Cheeks Soft Blur Cream Blush from Lawless. These are very interesting. So these are definitely more on the putty side of things, but they're also a little bit creamier than a putty. These do dry down to a full-on powder finish. So again, another one that is going to be really nice for all of my oily people out there, but this one takes a little bit longer to dry down. So very similar to the one from Iconic London. I do think this one is a little bit creamier than the one from Iconic London, so it's another one that you have to be a little bit more careful when you put it on over a powder product. It definitely works over powder, but you need to be a little bit more cautious. So it's not one that I don't like because I think it's absolutely beautiful. I just wouldn't recommend it to somebody who is just getting into cream blushes because I feel like you have to be really careful, like I said, when you're putting it over a powdered base. But this is in the shade Starburst, and I think this is absolutely beautiful. I really like the tone of this one. So let's go ahead and apply this one to the cheek. Now, I do prefer a cream blush that's in kind of this packaging right here, just because it's easier to pick up. It's easier to apply, but I mean, it's not going to sway me either way. But I'm just saying, if you're somebody who wants something that you can just immediately go in and pick it up from the pan, something big like this is going to be a good one, and this one is really nice. But I have the product on the brush, and let's go ahead and put her on. So the pigmentation is there, but it's also very workable. So like I said, this does dry down to a powder finish, but you have a little bit more work time than you do with like the ones from ColourPop. I feel like those immediately dry down to a powder finish. So you kind of have to be quick. You do have a little bit of wiggle room, but if you're somebody who likes a lot of wiggle room, this is a really good option, and I've really been enjoying this. I would love to get more shades in this one. I just think it's beautiful. I like the way that it looks on the cheek. I like the way that it sits, and I think it's really, really nice. I like the shades of these. From MAC, we have the Glow Play blushes. This is not a new formula, but they did expand the range. But this is my first time ever trying the formula. I have really wanted to for a long time, but every time I went in store, the shade that I wanted was sold out. So I'm not sure if this is a new shade or not. I tried to look and figure it out, and they've kind of removed the new tag off of all of the new shades, so I don't know. But this is in the shade Grand, and these are supposed to be really cool. I've touched them in store. They are very putty-like, like it pushes down, and these are really interesting. This is another cream to powder. This is supposed to be one of those that you can put on with your fingers, you can put on with a brush. Like, there's no rules with this one, but this is my first time applying it to the cheek. So let's go ahead and do a swatch right here. Ooh, that's really pretty. This is another one that it definitely goes straight from a cream to powder. I can feel it just by swiping it on my hand. And I like that it has that little bit of gleam to it. Very, very pretty. I do really enjoy MAC cheek products. They are some of my favorites. I'm a MAC girl. I grew up in the MAC era. I always wanted to wear MAC as a teenager, and my mom just always told me no, they didn't have anything light enough for me. She took me to the Lancome counter, and thus began my love for luxury beauty. So it's all her fault in the end, but that's for another day. But let's go ahead and dive into this one as I relive my teenage dreams. So I'm gonna pick this up with the BK Beauty 109 brush. I'm not a big fan of applying makeup with my fingers. It just, even though they're clean, to me it's just not the most hygienic thing. I'd rather use tools, brushes, sponges, all of the things. But let's do this. Okay, so very lightly pigmented. I don't know if it's because I'm picking it up with a brush or if that's just what it is. I don't mind it as long as it's going to build up, and it definitely seems like it is building up. I love that sheen to it though. That is very, very pretty. I've heard a lot of hype about these for so long, and I'm just now trying this out, which is very disappointing, but I'm glad that I am, because this is beautiful. Oh my gosh, that is really, really pretty for a cream to powder. It's definitely dried down to a powder, and I love that this is not a matte formula. I love that sheen to it. I think it went on absolutely beautiful. It didn't lift anything. Everything still looks the way that it did. This is beautiful. I get it. The hype is real. I'm a fan. This may be, it's still too early to tell because I need to keep testing it, but this may be a new favorite cream formula of mine. All right, from Makeup by Mario, we have the Soft Pop Plumping Blush Veils. Now, again, this is another formula that released last year, but he did bring us some new fun, bright, colorful shades for the summer. I picked up 2 of them. Did I need to? No, but could I resist them? Also no. So these are really, really nice. These are more balmy, but they blend out so beautiful. They are lightly pigmented, but they are buildable. They just had this really pretty, like, skin-like finish, and they melt into the skin really, really nicely. These do work better under a powdered face, but they are not impossible to use under a powdered face. I have used both of them both ways, and honestly, the newer shades that I picked up, I prefer to put on under a powder and then powder over top of them. It kind of dilutes them just a little bit because the newer shades are a little punchier than the original ones that he came out with, but these are still absolutely beautiful. I really enjoy this formula. It does dry down, but it doesn't dry down to a completely powdered finish. It just dries down to a finish where, like, your hair is not going to stick to it, the bugs, the outside, all of that. So these are absolutely beautiful. But the first shade that I have, which is the original one that I tried, and I had tried these for the first time at the beginning of this year. I didn't pick them up when they first launched, but this is in the shade Perfect Pink, and this is so, so beautiful. I love the shade of this. I love the pigmentation. I love the formula, but this is what the shade looks like. Absolutely gorgeous. But then, like I said, he came out with some new bright, fun shades for the summer, and the first one that I have is Paradise Pink. Gorgeous, gorgeous hot pink shade. This is the one I have not used yet, so this is definitely the one that we are going to put on the cheeks today. But that is what that looks like. So very similar to Perfect Pink, but a little brighter, a little punchier, more of like that flamingo vibrant pink that we've been seeing lately. And then the next one that I picked up is called Strawberry Sunset. I have a Katie hair stuck to the back of it, but this is the shade Strawberry Sunset. And this one is more of like it's a red, but it's not like a true red. It's more like a watermelon red. So this one I have worn before and it's beautiful. Like I said, it is definitely a little bit more pigmented and punchy, but it's still absolutely gorgeous. Do I need all three of these shades? No. Looking at them, I'm like, girl, you're absolutely ridiculous, but it is what it is. I can't be stopped. I love this. So like I said, we are going to try on the shade Paradise Pink on the cheeks. Let me just wipe off my little fingers really quick because these will stain if you get the color on them. They will. So just be careful with that. But we're going to go in and put this one on the cheek. Okay, I don't have anything on. I couldn't remember if I had already done a cheek reset or not, but these are really pigmented, but they blend out beautifully. So look at that pigmentation right off the bat with these new brighter shades. But what I like to do is kind of get that pigmentation down. I wipe off my brush and then I go back in and move the product around. All right, so you can see these definitely sheer out a little bit, but you can also see what I meant by these are really pigmented and they will definitely peek through a powder if you put them on over top and you just went a little too far. But these are really nice. I do really like the formula of these. It really just comes down to the shade that you want. So definitely go in the store, swatch them out a little bit, kind of move them around with your fingers, see how they sheer out, because some of them sheer out a little bit more than others, but they still blend into the skin absolutely beautifully. I really, really, really enjoy this formulation from Makeup by Mario. All right, so our next cream product is one that I feel like we have seen it coming. We knew it was gonna happen. It was very anticipated. I feel like a lot of people wanted it, and it is finally here. It is the Milani Cheek Kiss Blush Stick in the classic shade Luminoso. That's right, they gave us Luminoso in a cream blush formula. Now I will say there is a little bit of a shade difference between this and the powder one. I actually did pull out the powder one so we could do a side-by-side swatch because they are not 100% the same shade. So let's go ahead and do a swatch of this one. I have not put it on my cheek yet, but like I said, I did do a swatch on my hand with this one because I wanted to see what the shade looked like. So there is the shade Luminoso on the back of my hand. And you can see this one is definitely a little bit more on the peachy orange side. If you have the original Luminoso, you know exactly what I'm going to talk about, but I'm about to swatch it on the back of my hand so you can see, but still very pretty. It has that gold flip to it. This does feel a little bit more stiff in formulation, so not quite as creamy as some of the other ones that we have talked about, but we'll see how it performs once we put it on the cheek. But let's do a quick little swatch of classic Luminoso right here. Let's see if I can get this open. I always have a hard time getting some of these open, but all right. So I'm gonna get a good amount on my finger and we're gonna swatch it out right next to it. So you see how there's definitely a little bit more of like a peachy orangey base and there's a little bit more pink in the powder version of it. I think once you get it on the cheek and kind of disperse it and blend it out, you're still gonna get that same vibe. Nobody's gonna go, oh my gosh, that shade's different than the original Luminoso, but just swatched out next to each other, there is definitely a shade difference, and this is a classic. So I just wanted to point that out really quick in case you're somebody who doesn't like a super peachy leaning blush. This might be a little bit too much, but let's go ahead and apply this to the cheeks. So I'm going to pick this up with my brush. Like I said, this did feel a little bit more on the stiff side when I swatched it out, but it seems to be picking up really nicely on the brush. It's going on really nicely. It's pigmented. You can definitely see that sheen and that gold flip. And I feel like once I'm blending it out, it doesn't look as peachy as it does on the back of my hand. It's building up really nicely as well. and it's not lifting product underneath, but I do think this is accentuating a little bit of texture right here. I said before I don't have a lot of texture, but some of these products that have like the shimmer in them manage to find texture on my skin, and I definitely feel like this is accentuating it just a little bit right there, and I don't find that with the original powder formulation. So just something to kind of keep in mind, but I do think this is really pretty. I think it goes on really nicely. It's not enough texture to deter me from wearing this, but if you have super textured skin, it might be a little too much, but I do think that's really pretty. I like it. All right, so this next one is sort of in a category all its own. I didn't really know where to put it because it could kind of go in with creams or liquids. It probably should have gone in with liquids, but technically they are a stain. These are the Milk Makeup Cooling Water Jelly Tints. I don't have a lot of cheek stains in my collection. It's just not anything that I tend to gravitate towards, but I picked these up earlier this year because they were everywhere. You couldn't open any social media platform without seeing this everywhere. They are very gimmicky, but they are also really, really nice, and I do really enjoy these because as far as a stain goes, these are very easy to work with. You just kind of have to make sure that you go in with a brush and work very quickly. These dry down and they don't budge, so just keep in mind you don't have a lot of work time, but as far as a tint goes, I find these to be a little bit more user-friendly than other ones that I have tried in the past. But I picked up the shade, what is this one? Burst, which is this really pretty dark one, but it doesn't look like that when you swipe it on. So it's this really pretty like hot pink shade. Now these do stain. I'm going to have the stain here, but these are really cool. They are like the jelly ones. They look like jelly. They feel very cooling. They feel very gel-like on the skin, but this is, it's gimmicky, but it's a little bit more than a gimmick, so I do enjoy them. And the other shade that I have is Spritz. This one is really pretty as well. I do really enjoy these. These are actually really nice on the lips as well. I've been enjoying them that way if I want to have a flush of color and I don't want to have to worry about them wearing off or anything like that. If I'm out running a lot of errands, I pop one of these on and then I can put a gloss on over top. These kind of live in my purse lately, so I had to dig them out, but these are really, really nice. So that is what they look like on the back of my hand. Let's kind of wipe these off so you can see what the stain is like. So they do stain like immediately, and you can see that really pretty like flush of color that they leave. And we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna go in with Burst. So these again are not my favorite over powder, but they do work. You just need to make sure that you work really, really fast. So let me grab a different brush because I don't want to stain this one for the remainder of the video, and it absolutely will do that. So we're going to go in with the soft angled cheek brush from Sigma. So I like to put these on with a brush. I don't like to go directly onto my cheek because then you get like this immediate staining. But if you work really fast, they go on really nicely. They are very cooling to the touch and they look beautiful. And like I said, the pigmentation is going to last all day. But the reason I feel like I don't enjoy these as much over powder as I do under powder is because I feel like you have a little bit more work time if you're going on over like that wet base. So these aren't impossible. I just prefer them that way, but beautiful pigmentation is there, and that puppy is going nowhere. So I'm hoping I'm able to remove it. If not, it might peek through the foundation layer in the rest of this video, but these are really nice. As gimmicky as they are, the formulation is fantastic. The pigmentation is there. These are a good product. All right, let's talk about Miss Pat McGrath. This is the first and the only time that we are going to be talking about her in this video, but these are the Divine Blush Legendary Glow Color Bombs. Now, these are not a new product, but she did bring out more shades. She's kind of been re-releasing them with some of her collections throughout the year. Mine are probably a couple years old at this point, but these shades are still available. So I have the shades Flirtique, which is this really pretty like magenta shade right here, almost a berry shade actually. So that is what the shade looks like right there. Very, very pretty, very balmy. These do not dry down to a powder finish. And these actually have gotten a lot of hate, I feel like. And I think it's because the packaging is so incredibly cheap for Pat McGrath. Like, this is not luxury, this is not heavy, this is plastic. And I think that's kind of taken over everybody's perception of the actual formula, because me personally, I really enjoy the formula in here. I think it's beautiful. I don't think it's going to work very well if you have super oily skin, but if you have maybe even like combination, but definitely normal to dry skin, this is really, really pretty, and it performs really well both over and under powder. You do need to be a little bit more cautious when you're approaching it going over powder, but they are still really nice. The other shade that I have is Sun-Kissed Seduction, and this one is a little bit more on like that burnt terracotta side almost. It's a little bit more neutral than I thought it was going to be, but still very pretty. I think, no, mine still smell fine, but that's what the two shades look like that I have. I didn't pick up any new ones because I'm not in love with this formula. I don't think it's a bad formula at all. I don't think it deserves all the hate that it gets, but it's not a favorite of mine. So let's go ahead and try one of these on the cheek. We're gonna go in with the shade Sun-Kissed Seduction because I feel like we haven't tried on a neutral shade at all in this entire video. So I'm gonna go ahead and pick this up with my Sigma F08 brush. And we're going to apply this to the cheek. So like I said, this is very balmy, but these do kind of disperse nicely. They are buildable in pigmentation, and they dry down, but not fully to a powder finish. They are a little bit more sheer. They give a nice flush of tint to the skin. And this is another one that I definitely enjoy more when I'm not powdering my face, but they do work well over powder, but they are sticky right out the gate. So something to keep in mind. All right, so that's what the blush looks like built up to its full potential. And like I said, they are very pretty. They have a nice sheen to them. They do go on very balmy, but they do dry down just a little bit. They're not going to leave you feeling sticky and gross. Your hair is not going to stick to it. But again, they're not going to have that powder finish. So I like them. I think they're nice. They're just not a favorite formula of mine. All right, so we have 3 more blushes left in this category, and this next one could have been in either cream or powder, but I ended up putting it in here just because it was a little bit more fitting. But it is these little guys from Patrick Ta. I'm so sorry, this is super reflective and shiny and they are blinding you, but these are the Double Take cream and powder blushes. So this is not a new formulation from the brand. Again, it's another one of those that he gave us a shade expansion earlier this year. He gave us 3 new shades. I picked up 2 of them, and this was actually the first time I had ever played with these, and these are so good. The hype is real with these. These are good for a reason. They sell out for a reason. I have one of the monochrome blushes in my collection, and I love that one so much that I was a little sour when he discontinued it and replaced it with these, so it took a little while for me to actually try them, but these are so good. So I picked up the shades Just Enough and Not Too Much. Let's start with the shade Not Too Much. So it's this really pretty neutral blush. I really like this one for, again, the cooler, more winter months, the fall, all of that. But in these you get a powder and you get a cream formula. So you can go in and you can do your cream and then your powder. You can do just the powder, just the cream, or you can do it the Patrick Ta way, which is to go in with the powder first and then top it off with the cream to give it that nice little sheen to it. And one of the things I really love about this packaging is that you get this nice little plastic flap that goes over the cream, so you don't get your powder in the cream because that can totally ruin it and then you've got a big old mess. But this is the shade Not Too Much, so let's go ahead and swatch this one on the back of my hand. Now the powders in here are not quite a flat matte. They do have a little something to them. I wouldn't call them quite a satin, but they're not a full-on matte. And then the cream is very creamy, and they do dry down, but they don't dry down to like a powder finish. This is the cream right here, and then this one is the powder. So you definitely get 2 different shades in these as well, but they are very complementary to each other. They layer really nicely, and ultimately you're getting like 4 combos when you purchase one of these. So I know these are a little bit more on the pricier side, but when you look at it that you're getting a cream and a powder and there's 4 different ways you can wear these, it is really a deal. But this is the shade Oh, not too much. Let's go ahead and swatch the shade just enough. This one is a really pretty like bubblegum pink shade that we have been seeing everywhere, and as much as I love it, I'm a little tired of this shade, but let's swatch these two out really quick. So this one is very pretty. It is very pigmented, I will say. It's more pigmented on the cheek than it swatches out. But again, you have that same beautiful creamy formula, and the powder in here is not quite a flat matte. So let's start with the cream. So there's the cream. And then this is the powder. So you can see how pigmented that powder blush. It is definitely more pigmented than the cream version. I personally like the cream a little bit more in this one than the powder, just because I feel like it can be a little bit too much, but it does sheer out very nicely if you go in with a light hand. But with that being said, we're gonna try on the shade just enough. So I'm actually going to do it the Patrick Ta way, which is to do your powder and then top it off with the cream. So I'm going to pick up the powder with my fluffy powder brush and put this on my cheek, and then I will top it with the cream. So see how right out the gate that is very, very bright. But like I said, you can go in very light-handed, you can sheer it out, you can build it up a little bit more. And I do like that. The reason I like a more pigmented blush is because I feel like it works for more skin tones across the board. So for me personally, I like something that is a little bit more lighter and I can build up that pigmentation. But when I'm looking at a collective point of view, the more pigmented blushes are going to work for more people across the board. So that's just kind of my little 2 cents I wanted to throw in there really quick. But that is what the powder looks like on the cheek. Let's go ahead and top it off with the cream. I'm just gonna pick this up with my Sigma F08 brush, and we're just gonna tap this over top. Now the idea behind this is to take away from the flatness and give a little dimension to the cheek, a little bit of glow, and it definitely does that. This isn't something you have to do, but it's a really neat technique, and like I said, it's the Patrick Ta way. So when you're using a Patrick Ta blush, I definitely feel like you have to do this, but keep in mind, if you're going to go over top of this with a highlighter, you wanna wait until this is dried down pretty good before you go in with a powder highlighter. Unless you have the new highlighters from Patrick Ta, you can definitely go in with the balmy version of that, or go in with a liquid is what I would suggest. I feel like if you go in with a powder highlighter over top, it's definitely going to kind of grab and kind of give a little blotchiness to the highlighter. But that is what that shade looks like. Absolutely beautiful. Love this formulation. If I could own them all, I would, but there's like a million of these suckers, and like I said, they are not cheap. All right, so from Polite Society, we have the Polite Pops Powder Blush Sticks. Now, these are the ones that I was talking about whenever we touched on the Kylie Cosmetics ones, that they sounded like they were supposed to be a powder blush in a stick form. And I feel like these hit that mark a little bit more than the one from Kylie did, although I did like that formula. This definitely feels like a powder whenever you touch it. It feels like a powder whenever you put it on. It's a very interesting formulation, and it turned out to not be as good as what I was expecting. It's a little bit harder to pick up with a brush, and if you try and swipe this on the cheek, whether you are powdered or unpowdered, it's going to be a no-go. It is going to pick up all of the makeup underneath. So again, this is one that it works better over a powdered face than it does under a powder face. It's one of the few blushes in this category that actually does this, and I debated putting this into the powder formula category, but ultimately it's a stick and it does have a little bit of like a cream performance to it. So it's kind of a hybrid, but this is where it's landing. It is what it is. But I picked up 2 shades of this. So the first one that I picked up is called Los Angeles, and it's this really pretty bright pink shade. That is what it looks like. These are very stiff, but again, feels like a powder, performs like a powder, or feels like a powder, but performs like a cream. So very, very interesting. Just, I don't know, they're very interesting. The next one that I have is the shade Sydney, and this one is very pretty as well. This is more of a neutral leaning blush, and this one doesn't feel quite as creamy as the pink one goes, but I'm kind of wondering if the top kind of dries out a little bit and maybe you need to reactivate it. I don't know. These are interesting. I kind of wish I hadn't picked up 2 of them, but at the same time, they're cute, they're fun to play with, and they're a good reference point to have. So let's go ahead and go in with the shade Sydney. I have found that the easiest way to pick these up is with a more dense brush like I would use for a cream blush. If you go in with a fluffy one, you're never going to get anything on here. They are very hard to pick up. So I'm just going to pick it up on my brush. You do have to go in a little bit forceful, and then you just put it on the cheek. But you see how they're not super pigmented? Like, you can see something there. They're just a lot of work for what you're gonna get. All right, so that is what the shade looks like on my cheek. Like I said, once it goes on, it does look very pretty. It is definitely a powder formula. I like the concept of it. I just don't think it was executed the way that, I don't know if there's a proper way to execute this. I like the idea of a powder blush in a stick form. I just don't know if it's possible because you have to have all of the properties in here to get it to form into that stick without shattering the minute you touch it. So I don't know. I'm not a chemist. I don't know a lot about formulating makeup. I know nothing about formulating makeup, but just in my mind, with the knowledge that I have, thinking back to chemistry and color theory and formulation, all that we learned in school and in cosmetology school, the concept is nice. I just don't know if it was executed the best. I hope that makes sense. So interesting, but they just skip. Just skip. Ultimately, just skip. They're a big pain. They're more work than they're worth, and just skip them. All right, y'all, so we are down to our final cream blush, and they are the Pocket Blushes from Rhode. These are so good. Like, I absolutely love these. I have fallen hard and fast, so much though that I ordered the rest of the shades in the collection. So as soon as those get here, we'll do like a swatch party, check out all the colors, try them on, see what they look like, do some comparisons and things like that. But these are so good. I had low expectations from these. Like, I expected nothing. I thought, oh, they're just going to be another celebrity brand that's going to be super gimmicky, trying to get her dime and all of that. But these are a beautiful formula. These work so good over and under powder products. They are creamy, they glide on, they are fuss-free, very easy to work with. They blend out really nicely. Like, these are so good. So the first shade that we have is called Juice Box. I'm trying to do this really quick because my camera is about to die and I want to make sure I finish this. And the next shade that we have is called Sleepy Girl. This is the one that I have probably used more than the other one, but these just, they're so nice. I think they're gonna work for all skin types, all ages. They do dry down. There's like a little gnat in here. They do dry down to a powder finish, but you have work time with these. These are beautiful, very user-friendly. Like, I cannot stress enough how much I love these. So let's go ahead and try this on really quick before my camera dies. So we're gonna try the shade Sleepy Girl. And I'm so excited about these, y'all. The packaging does not feel super luxe. It does feel a little bit cheap, but they are still very cute. These do fit into your pocket. I've seen lots of videos of people doing it, and just look at how that blends out. So easy, so effortless. The pigmentation is light but buildable, and I absolutely love these. They do have a little bit of a sheen to them, and I'm really upset because they came out with the shade Sprinkle, which was a limited edition one that was available at their New York pop-up, and I was all ready to get it. It has a little bit of shimmer in it. I have my alarm set. I was super excited, and y'all, they sold out so incredibly fast. But look at how beautiful that is. That does look a little bruisey right now because I don't have anything else on, and let's be honest, my cheeks are a little bit sore from all of this, but absolutely gorgeous. Love this blush. Highly recommend it. I think it's great for the price. The formula everything. I love the shades in this, and I cannot wait to get the rest of these in the mail. All right, it's time for liquid blushes, and I am super excited about this category. It is one of my favorites. If I had to choose between a cream blush and a liquid blush, I'm gonna choose a liquid every single time. I just love the blendability. I love the more natural finish that a liquid blush gives, and I feel like you can get a little bit more creative with a liquid blush because you can mix the colors together. They blend together a little bit easier. There's so many different finishes, pigmentations, colors, all of that, and liquid blush makes me happy. So let's go ahead and jump into this. We have 13 different formulas to go through. Up first is going to be the Anastasia Beverly Hills Blurring Serum Blush. This is probably, I think, maybe the newest blush that I have sitting here in front of me. This one in between another one, but I think this one might be it, and I'm not a big fan of this. I was excited about it because I like the precise applicator. I like that it comes in this little squeezy tube. I picked up the shade Peach, and look at how accurate this is. Like, you get a really good little amount of product. It does feel really nice, but I will say this feels very thick, and you can tell just on the back of my hand, it dries down really quickly. It's not very easy to work with. You have to be very fast, and when I say very fast, like, you need to work in small sections because this is going to dry down, and as soon as it does, it is going nowhere. So good and bad because it doesn't give you a lot of work time, but we're gonna go ahead and try this one on. So the way that I like to do a liquid blush generally is I like to dot it on my face and then blend it from there. So that's what we're gonna do. So I was really excited about this precise applicator, but like I said, these are not easy to work with. They do not go on over powder very well at all. You can see how it's already dried down, and I worked really quickly, and once it's there, it's there. So it's very patchy. It's very hard to work with. They do work fine under powder, but over powder, they just don't do it for me. And as I said earlier in this video and in many videos preceding this one, in order for a formula to be a love of mine, something that I want to reach for, purchase multiple different shades and recommend to y'all, it needs to perform over powder, and this just is not doing it. Let me add a little bit more. I don't know how well you can pick up that patchiness on camera, but it just doesn't blend out nicely. You see how it's like kind of grabbed right here. It's like a little bit more pigmented. It's sparse right here. It's just, it's not a perfect formula. If you don't powder your face, you might really enjoy this one, but no, this one is very disappointing for me, and I don't recommend it. On the flip side of that, however, I do have a liquid formula that I absolutely love. I am really impressed with, and I 100% recommend. It is the Armani Luminous Silk Cheek Tint. These are absolutely beautiful. I picked up the shade 33. This is that really light, like, cool tone baby pink, and this is a beautiful formula. It performs like you would expect it to from the Luminous Silk line. Now I will say, depending on the shade that you get, depends on the pigmentation of this one. I definitely want to pick up more shades. I have swatched them in store, so that's how I know that the darker ones are a little bit more pigmented, but this is such a beautiful formula. It goes on like a dream. It just blends into the skin. It gives this really neat blurring effect. It is very easy to work with. You definitely have work time here. It's not going to dry down super fast, and it does dry down not to a complete powder finish, but pretty close enough that I think no matter what the skin type you have is, you can get away with this. It is absolutely gorgeous. Like, look at how that sits on the skin. I love this. This is a favorite liquid blush formula for sure. So I went ahead and added a little bit more because I want to show y'all how this builds up on itself. You can definitely get more pigmentation, a little bit more of a punchier color, and it's not going to grab, it's not going to lift, it's not going to do anything weird. Even if it's already dried down completely, it just blends out on top so nicely. Isn't that beautiful? I love the shade, love the pigmentation. Again, favorite formula, definitely recommend it. It is a luxury brand, so it's a little bit pricier, but again, if you're into luxury beauty or maybe you want to treat yourself and you want a really nice blush, this is a really good one. From Bare Minerals, we had the Complexion Rescue Bronzer. Now this is a liquid formula of their blush bronzers that they already have. They also came out with liquid blush lighters as well, and they do have those in a powder version as well. But I decided to pick up just one shade. I picked up the shade Kiss of Pink. I have a really bad habit of picking multiple shades up of a new product that I've never tried before, and I'm trying to get out of that. You'll see a couple here that I didn't do too well with, but I went ahead and resisted and just picked up the one, and I'm glad I did because this is not a favorite formula of mine. So for one, it goes on nice. I will give it that. It does look really nice. It goes on nice. I don't have an issue with that, but it does not dry down. It stays very sticky on the skin. It does have a beautiful reflection to it. It looks really nice, but whenever I've worn this, I've just noticed everything sticks to my skin. And if I put this on under powder and try to powder over top of it, since it never dries down, it grabs onto the powder and just makes a patchy, nasty mess. So unfortunately, these are a miss for me as well. I was really disappointed, but we're still going to try this on the cheek anyway. Liquid blushes are definitely, and this is the same goes for a liquid bronzer as well, but they're one of those formulas where they're either good or they're not. There's not really an in-between with them, and you'll see that more in this category than you will with the others. But this one I'm just not a fan of, like I said. So I did pick it up off the back of my hand just because a lot comes out whenever you squeeze the bottle. But you have a ton of work time with this because, like I said, it never fully dries down. And it does take a lot of this product as well. That was another issue that I had. So I wanted a little bit more. I think if this is kind of the look that you're going to, we've got some other formulas coming up to talk about that are much better than this. They are a lot more affordable and they just sit better on the skin. They dry down and they're absolutely beautiful. But you see how pretty that looks on the skin? But I'm telling you, I could sit here for hours and this is never going to dry down. So super disappointing. I wanted more, and this one just isn't giving it to me. ColourPop came out with some new liquid blushes this year as well. These are the weightless liquid blushes. I did pick up 2 colors. Like I said, I have a bad habit of picking up multiple shades of a formula I've never tried before. And this is one that I have mixed feelings on. So let's swatch them out and I'll give you all a little bit more insight into that in just a minute. So the first one that I have is Angel Face. It is this really pretty pink. It's like a hot pink. It looks absolutely beautiful. These are very pigmented, but they do blend out a little bit easier than, say, the ones from like Rare Beauty or e.l.f. I feel like those stay very pigmented. These do sheer out a little bit. The other one that I have is Culver City. So these do feel a little bit on the thicker side whenever I swatch them out. So a little bit goes a long way, but my issue with these are they don't build up on themselves very well. And if you're not super careful, they can patch out on the skin when you put it over powder products. I saw that whenever I tried their liquid blush. It looked beautiful whenever I put it on over an unset cheek, but then whenever I put it on over powder, it kind of grabbed and it didn't want to blend out very easily, and you're gonna see that with these as well. But I will say, if you don't powder your face and you want a really pretty glowy cheek, mixing the two together is absolutely beautiful. So that's kind of why I have mixed feelings on this. And if you put it on pigmented enough, it will peek through your powder. Obviously the highlighter won't, but the blushes will. But I think for this one, we're gonna go in with Culver City. So I'm gonna put this on the way that I normally would. I'm going to dab just a little bit, but look at how thick that is. Like, that is really, really thick. Like, it's peaking like it would if you're making homemade frosting. You know how they tell you, oh, it's perfect whenever it peaks? That's what this does. And I don't want my liquid blush to peak. I want it to be a liquid. And to me, this is a little thicker than what I prefer. So you see how it's pretty pigmented right out the gate. But once you blend it, it kind of shears out a little bit. and it looks really nice, but I'm telling you, if you decide that you want to build up that color, you can't do it. Like, it is what it is. This is what you're gonna get. So make sure that you get your full pigmentation before you start to blend it out. These do take a little bit of time to dry down, so you do have some work time, but let me show you what I'm talking about. So I'm gonna go back in with the same blush, and let's put a little bit more right there. I feel like I need a little bit more pigmentation. So when I go back in and start to blend, it starts to grab and lift the product like right there. Can you see that on the camera, how it's like a little bit patchy right here? So they're a little finicky. It's not a horrible formula. It's good for the price, but there's another liquid formula out there that is even more affordable that we're about to talk about in just a minute that I absolutely adore. That is a really pretty color though. I'll give it that. Okay, so one of my favorite liquid blush launches of the year. I do have quite a few of them, I will be honest, but this is one of my absolute favorites. It's affordable, it's at the drugstore. It is the e.l.f. Camo Liquid Blushes. These are so good. These are probably the closest thing I have found to the Rare Beauty blushes. I will say these have a little bit more of like a gel-like consistency, but they're very pigmented. They blend out the same. They still have like this really pretty glow to them, and the colors in these are beautiful, but I will warn you, the darker you get with these, the more pigmented they get. So the lighter ones aren't quite as pigmented. They are a little bit more on the buildable side, but the darker shades like this one right here, these are wildly pigmented. So just kind of go in with a little bit of caution, but these look good both over and under powder products. They blend out beautifully. The pigmentation lasts all day, and just a little bit will do ya. So the first one that I have is Suave Mauve, which I think they want it to be Suave Mauve, but in my opinion, it's mauve, not mauve. But this is what that shade looks like right there. Absolutely gorgeous. Again, a nice deep mauvey blush for me to wear in the fall and winter months. This one does have a little bit of a sheen to it. The next one that we have is Dusty Rose. These are really hard to read. I wish they would quit making the writing so small on the bottom of these, but that is that shade right there. That's actually the first one that I bought, and then I went back and bought two more, but very beautiful. I would definitely say this one's a little bit more on the peachy side than like the rose side, but still absolutely beautiful. And then the last one I have is the shade Coming In Hot Pink, and I was feeling the vibrant summer vibes when I got this one, but this one is so incredibly pigmented. Like a tiny dot goes the longest way. In fact, this is the one that we're gonna try on so I can show you what I'm talking about. But this is a really good formula. These are like $8 and you can't beat that. The shade range is gorgeous and these are really good. A lot of people have really been loving these, but that tiny little dot is pretty much going to do what I need it to do. Like, look at how pigmented that is, y'all. Absolutely beautiful. These do sheer out a little bit and they build up on each other or up on itself as well. So say you put on this and you're like, oh, I want just a tiny bit more. Maybe I want it a little bit darker back here. Just add another tiny little dot and it will absolutely blend out on itself. It won't move the product underneath. It won't patch. It won't grab. It won't do anything weird. So I'm going to show you. I wouldn't normally build it up like this. I feel like what I have is plenty, but I want to show y'all for demo purposes. So see how it's just building up and how vibrant that can get. So this is another one of those formulas like we talked about with the cream blush formulas that I feel like the pigmentation on this is there for a reason. So it can reach across more skin tones, because this would look absolutely beautiful on a deeper skin tone, but then I can go in very light-handed and blend it out on my fair skin and it's going to look absolutely gorgeous. All right, let's see if we can make it through the rest of these. My cheeks are starting to get a little sore and tired, but we're gonna power through. Up next, we have the Cheek Slime from Freck. This was a reformulation. So they had these in the past and I never tried that one before. They pulled them, reformulated them, and re-released them. And this is a beautiful formula. This again has that more gel-like consistency, but it's a little bit more on the sheer side, especially compared to the one from e.l.f. And as far as sheerness goes, it reminds me a little bit of the one from Armani. Not the same formula, just kind of how it shears out on the cheek. So I have the shade Rose Buddy. It does come in this cute little like food coloring component, which I think is really adorable. Not my favorite. I prefer a doe foot or something that I can get a really precise application with. But this is what the shade looks like. It's this really pretty like nude blush with just the tiniest bit of like a pinky undertone to it. Very, very pretty. But let's go ahead and put this one on the cheek. So this is another one that I like to pick up off the back of my hand just because it doesn't have a doe foot to it. I find the ones with a doe foot a little bit easier to go in directly, but this is how I prefer to do it. You can do it however you want, but see how sheer that is, but watch how it builds up on itself. So I'm gonna grab a little bit more, just like a tiny little dot. And we're going to build this up. Now this one does not dry down to a powder finish, but it does dry down to where it's not sticky. So you're not going to have your hair stick to it or anything like that, but it does leave a really nice sheen on the cheek. It doesn't have a glow to it, but it's not a flat matte. So that is what it looks like. And we are definitely getting to the point where my skin is like, you can stop putting blush on me because I'm tired, but beautiful. Love the color, love the formula. This is a really good one. From Glaminatrix Cosmetics, we had the cheek and lip flushes. These launched earlier this year, I believe, with the Pretty in Pastels palette. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is. And this is such a good formula. These look beautiful on the cheek. They go well over and under powder products. They blend out really nicely. The pigmentation is there, but you can definitely sheer them out. And it's one of the few liquid blush formulas that I have sitting here in front of me that is actually really nice on the lips. They are meant to be worn that way, but sometimes they're a little bit iffy on the lips, but these actually work out really nicely. They gave us 5 absolutely beautiful shades. I do have a short on my channel swatching and trying on every single one of these, so if you're interested in that, you can definitely go back through my shorts and look for it. It shouldn't be too far back, but it is there. But if you are unfamiliar with Glaminatrix Cosmetics, they are an Australian indie brand and they have a beautiful eyeshadow formula, but lately they have been branching out into cheeks, lips, and other things, and these are such a good launch from them. So let's go ahead and swatch out these shades on the back of my hand, and then we will put one on the cheeks. So the first one that we have is the shade Sunny. And it's this really pretty peachy orange shade. This is about the limit for as orange as I can get before I just can't pull it off. But this is beautiful. Absolutely love it. These do dry down to a matte finish. So I do want to let y'all know that. Even on the lips, it dries down to a matte. It's not super uncomfortable, but I definitely feel like I personally need to go over top of it with some sort of gloss. The next shade that we have is Lavish. This is a really pretty neutral brown. I can actually use this one as a liquid bronzer. So yeah, it's a bronzer, but since it's a blush, we're gonna put it in this category, but typically I keep this one in my bronzer drawer. The next shade that we have is Gentle. This is a really pretty like petal pink shade. Absolutely love it. It has just this little bit of like a purpley undertone. It's one color that looks really, really good on me, and I love this one so much. The next one that we have is Poppy. This is a really pretty red, and this is a stunning, stunning red. It is very pigmented, but it shears out really nicely. Whenever I tried these on the shorts, I went in a little heavy-handed so you could see what the pigmentation is, but when I wear it on a normal basis and put on an appropriate amount of product, it blends out really pretty. The last one that we have is Petal, and this one is another like petal pink shade, but this one has just a little bit more of that pink undertone, whereas this one has a little bit more of that mauvey purple undertone to it. So I think we're gonna go ahead and just do petals since it's already here and it's open. So I'm gonna go ahead and dot this on my cheek. Now this one, you can kind of go in a little bit heavy. You don't need to be super careful as far as, oh, one tiny little dot will do it, but you definitely do with the darker shades. That seems to be a trend with blushes, but it makes sense that the darker you go, the more pigmented it's going to be. But look at how beautiful that is. But it does blend up or build up on itself. So let me show you that as well. I love this shade. This is probably my most worn one out of all of these, but this is a really good one. And these are more on the affordable side as well. They're definitely under $20. I can't remember the exact price point, but they will be linked down below. We have the Dewy Plump Collagen Cheek Tints. These are from Give by Gwen Stefani, and these are really nice. This does have a little bit more of that gel-like consistency to it, but they look very beautiful on the cheek. They have like this nice hydrated plumping look to them. They don't tingle or do anything weird, but they definitely make your skin look like it's just nice and healthy and hydrated, whether you put this over or under a powder. Like, these are pretty impressive and I really enjoy this. This is in the shade Bouquet. And this is so good. It is a little bit on the thicker side, but it still goes on over and under powder products really, really nicely. And I don't know what it is, but it leaves this beautiful, healthy glow on the cheek. So let's go ahead and apply this one. It's not as pigmented as you would think it is. This is like a perfect pigmentation in my mind. It's not over the top, but it's not super sheer either. You can see how much product I went in with, and it just blends itself out. It lays really nicely on the cheek, and it has this beautiful, just healthy glow to it. Not a sheen, not a glimmer, just a glow from within. I'm gonna add just a little bit more so I can show you how it builds up on itself. I do like a liquid blush where I can go a little bit buck wild and don't have to worry about feeling like I've overdone it and made a huge mistake, and how am I gonna correct it? All right, so that's what that looks like on the cheek. You can see that really pretty glow, especially now that I've got a little bit more pigmentation on it. But you saw how when I first put it on, I put on those 3 dots and it just blended out and sheared out really nicely. A lot of these other ones, that would have been way too much product. So this was a really good release from the brand. I'm impressed by it. It's another one that I would absolutely pick up more shades. Sometime it's on my wish list, but like I've said, I need the other new blush releases to slow down before I can pick up multiple shades in some of these. From Hourglass, we had the Unreal liquid blushes, and these are absolutely stunning. Hands down, one of my favorite liquid blush releases of the year. Yes, these are a little bit on the pricier side, but Hourglass is a luxury brand with a luxury price point, and this is a luxury formula. These are absolutely stunning. In my opinion, they are 100% worth it. Of course, everybody's worth is their own business, so don't take me as this telling you that you need to run out and get them and spend your hard-earned money on them. But if you have been eyeballing them and been curious about them, I think they're 100% worth it. These are very user-friendly. I don't feel like you need to be super experienced in a liquid blush in order to use these. They sheer out, but they're also buildable in pigmentation, and they blend like a dream. And there's something about the finish of these, a lot like the powder blushes from the brand, that they just leave this beautiful glow to the skin. Like, you're beaming, you're healthy, you're hydrated, you're glowing, all the lights are all over you everywhere you go. These are stunning. I originally purchased just one shade, which is Vision, and I loved it so much that I went back and purchased the other 3. So I learned my lesson and only picked up one in a new formula, but ended up picking up 4 ultimately. But in my defense, these are shades that I don't have a lot of in my collection, and I was picking up a lot of brighter, more summery shades, and I wanted a formula that I loved that I could wear into the fall and winter months. So justified in my mind. But let's go ahead and swatch these. So the first shade that we have is Vision. And if you haven't seen these are really cool. So there's this little dropper on the back, or on the bottom actually, and you just press it and you get the tiniest little drop that comes out. Now these are a true liquid formula. They are very, very liquidy, but look at how beautiful they are. They don't dry down to a full-on matte finish, but they don't leave like a sticky residue on as well. I'm so sorry, that was not in frame, but they don't leave like a sticky residue either. But that is the shade Vision. Next one, I have not swatched any of these or done anything. This is the shade Future. So we're gonna do our tiny little drop right here, and you can see how liquidy they are. But that is the shade Future. So this one is just a little bit more on like that poppy orange side compared to Vision. But you can see whenever I move my hand, that really pretty glow that they have. Absolutely stunning. Next we have the shade Craft. This is a deeper berry shade. I have a feeling the deeper ones are going to be a little bit more pigmented, but like I said, I wanted some deeper shades that I could wear into the fall and winter months, and I think this one's going to look really, really pretty. And lastly, we have the shade Imagine. This is a really pretty like deep terracotta shade. So I'm gonna swatch this one down here. And that is what that one looks like. So this one's definitely the deepest one of the bunch, and I think this is the one that I want to try on my cheeks. I'm really excited about this one. I know how this one performs, and I'm sure I'll get to those two, but let's go ahead and do this one right here. That one is called Craft. So I like to put these on the back of my hand first and then pick it up from there. So let me wipe this off so we can demo this on my cheek. All right, so here we go with the shade Craft. I'm gonna do the one tiny little dot, and we're gonna put this on my cheek. I do like to kind of like schmooze my brush around on my hand just so I can make sure it's nice and evenly coated, but you can already see how well that shears out just on the back of my hand. But look at this, it practically blends itself. Like, look at how easy that was. The pigmentation is definitely there, and you can 100% build these up if you have a deeper skin tone. But if you're like me and you have fair skin, I think you're gonna be able to pick from any shade in the range. I don't have them all. I think there's 2 more that I didn't pick up, and who knows, those 100% one day could be mine. But look at how gorgeous that is. Oh, I absolutely love it. Let's build that up just a tiny, tiny bit. I haven't played with anything this dark from the brand yet, so I haven't had a need to build it up a whole lot. So let's see what this is gonna do. So again, smooshing it around on the back of my hand, and we're gonna go in very lightly, and that's definitely building up, but it's not lifting, it's not grabbing, it's not patching, it's just building up that pigmentation. All right, moving on to our next liquid blush. These are from Huda Beauty. These are the Blush Filter liquid blushes, and I haven't had a chance to play with these yet. They have been sitting over here in my collection, and I keep reaching for them, but I picked up 2 very warm shades, and we've had a lot of very cool tone palettes come out, so they haven't really gone with a whole lot that I've been wearing, but I'm super excited to try these out. So let's do this together. The first shade that I have is Peach Sorbet. I love the packaging on these. Look at that doe foot. That's like really cute and different. I like the way that looks. So like I said, this is the shade Peach Sorbet. That is a very pretty color. It looks like it has a little bit of a sheen to it. I'm curious to see how user-friendly these are gonna be, how pigmented these are gonna be, and how fast they dry down, if they dry down at all. The next shade that we have is Watermelon Pop. I've seen a lot of people using these on their lips, and they absolutely love these on their lips, so I'll have to try that another day. But that is the shade Watermelon Pop. That is definitely giving me more of like a bricky orange vibe, but still very, very pretty. So I think I want to try both of these on the cheek together, kind of ombre them, because I'm curious about the pigmentation of these, and since I haven't tried this formula before, let's go ahead and give it a shot. So we're gonna start with the lighter shade, which is Peach Sorbet. And I'm gonna start by doing just a couple of little dots right there. And then we're gonna stipple and blend this out. I don't know, y'all. It's like doing, you see how it's doing funky? Oh, well, that's disappointing. This is not blending out very nicely. I'm sure it works really nice under powder, but as far as over powder goes, it's just not performing the way that I want it to. Let's see if we can build up just a little bit more right where it's a little patchy and sparse. I don't like to have to work this hard for a liquid blush, but I definitely want to see if this is something that we can save or if it's just going to make it worse. Okay, so not bad. A little finicky. It can definitely be used, but you're gonna have to build it up and be very mindful of that. So this is not going to be a favorite formula for me. It's fine. It's just, you know, when I have all these other liquid blush formulas here that perform beautifully over powder, like the ones from Hourglass, this just isn't hitting the mark for me. But you know, it's probably beautiful if you don't powder your face. So if you don't powder your face, maybe it's something to look into, but no, this is not going to be a favorite for me. So we're going in with the darker shade. I don't seem to be having that same problem with the darker shade. I did go in a little heavier handed. I need to keep playing with this one. I need to. So this one, this is going to have to be a to be continued. I will continue to test this one out, as well as a couple of other these that I've only used a couple of times. I know the one from Kylie Cosmetics, that was the first time I've used that one as well. So the ones that I have not had in a speed reviews video, they will be in an upcoming speed reviews video. But this is one that I might need to pop into the next blush video that I do. But it does look very pretty once I actually got it on nice and even and it wasn't patched out. It also could be the fact that this is like what, the millionth blush that I've put on my cheek at this point. So something else to take into consideration. But it did dry down very fast, and it does feel like it dried down to a powder finish. So, you know, we've got a lot of variables that we're working with here. So my consensus right off the bat is this is not a bad formula. I just think it's a little bit finicky and I need to kind of play around with it a little bit more. Alright, so from Juvia's Place, we have their matte liquid blush formula and we have their glow liquid blush formula. I prefer the matte one. I feel like it's just a little bit more flattering on my cheek. This one is very beautiful, but it gives a little bit more glow than what I typically prefer. It is a really pretty blush topper and I do like it mixed in with a more matte blush, but on its own, it gives a little bit more than what I want. But formula wise, they both perform really nicely. They are wildly pigmented, like tiniest little bit goes a long way. If you think you haven't put enough, trust me, you have. These are that pigmented, but they blend out really nicely. They do not sheer out. I will let you know that right off the bat, but they lay really nicely on the skin. They don't lift product, they don't grab, they don't disturb the powder or anything like that, and they last all day. So let's go ahead and swatch out the matte one. This is the shade Coral Rose. So I'm going to swatch this one out on the back of my hand, and you can see how very pigmented this is. This is a little bit thicker than the one from Rare Beauty and the one from e.l.f., but it's along those lines as far as the finished look goes, but I do find these to be more pigmented than either of those two. So just proceed with caution if you pick these up if you haven't already, but that is the shade Coral Rose. Very, very pretty. And then for the glowy one, I have the shade Soft Tulip Glow. This is that really pretty petal pink with that kind of gold sheen to it. Very, very gorgeous, but you can see how glowy it is and how pigmented this one is as well. But let's go ahead and start with this one. So I'm actually going to pick this up off the back of my hand. I find that to be the best way to deal with these because they are so incredibly pigmented. So just like I do with the ones from Hourglass, I just kind of smudge it around on my brush and then I go over here and kind of get off some of that excess and then go in on my cheek. Because if you go in straight to your cheek and you are fair complected like me, it's really going to take over and you are going to have blush for days, and I find that these are really hard to correct if you go in too heavy-handed. So definitely not for a first-time liquid blush user. I feel like you do need to be a little bit more experienced, but that does look very pretty on the cheek. But again, in person, it gives me just a little too much glow. So it's a personal preference thing. It's not a formula thing. It's definitely a me thing. I feel like the camera is not picking up the full on glow that it has, but I do like the color. I like the formula of it. Just a little glowy, a little too pigmented. But let's go ahead and try on the matte version. So this is in the shade Coral Rose. Actually, I already have it right there. So I'm just going to pick that up on my brush, smudge it in there really good, and then come down here and tap off the excess. I absolutely would not have put that much on the back of my hand, but since it was already there, we might as well. But look at how crazy pigmented this is. Like, I'm still patting it out and getting a ton of color, and I'm still getting color on my cheek after all of that. But you see how they do go on really nicely, and they are pigmented. But like I said, if you want to sheer it out a little bit, or if you're afraid of how pigmented it's going to be, pick it up off the back of your hand, smudge it around, and kind of tap it out before you go in. But even with all of that product that I picked up, tapped out, look at the pigmentation on my cheek. These are beautiful, and I do really love them, but they're a little bit finicky because of how pigmented they are. All right, y'all, so we are down to our last two liquid blush formulas. Both of these come to us from affordable drugstore brands, and let's go ahead and start with the L'Oreal Lumi Liquid Blush. So I recently tried this one in a try-on video, and this is a beautiful formula. I can already tell you that. This goes on really nicely. I don't have any issues with blending, pigmentation, patching, skipping, anything like that. It goes very nicely over and under powder products. It is more pigmented, but it's not nearly as pigmented as the one from Juvia's Place. I picked up the shade, I don't even know if I can find it. Oh, here it is. Dewy Worth It is the name of this one. So let's go ahead and pop this one on our cheek over here. So a little bit goes a long way. You can go a little bit more heavy-handed than you can with the Juvia's Place e.l.f. and Rare Beauty, but I would still kind of proceed with caution. But I want to show you what the pigmentation is like, how beautiful these are, how easy they are to blend out. And look at that. They have a really nice glow to them. These are super impressive, especially for a more affordable brand. But let me tell you what, the drugstore has absolutely been killing it lately when it comes to their releases. I have found so many new affordable favorites. I am an indie girl and like luxury girl at heart, but I do love to test out different brands, different formulas, and see what is good out there. And this one really impressed me. I think it is absolutely beautiful. All right, our last liquid blush formula comes to us from Maybelline. This is the Sun Kisser Liquid Blush. I have already played with this one for y'all, and it wasn't super pigmented, but I told y'all I wanted to pick up a little bit of a darker shade and see if it's one of those where the darker you get, the darker the pigmentation is. So this is the shade, where is the shade name on here? Oh my gosh, I have no idea. Oh, they're at the top. Soul Search 03, and the other shade that I have is 05 Blazing Blush. So let me give you a swatch of Blazing Blush. It's this really pretty like baby pink shade. It is buildable. You absolutely can build up the pigmentation, but right out the gate it shears out a lot, but still very beautiful, has a nice glow, goes on really nicely over and under powder products. I don't have any issue with this, but this is the new shade that I picked up. So 03 Soul Search. I have not swatched this, I have not tried it, nothing, and it doesn't look like it's gonna be as dark as I thought it was gonna be, but definitely a little bit darker than this one right here. So we're gonna try on the new shade and see what it does. So I'm going to, whoops, knock everything over. I'm gonna just kind of dab a little bit of this on my cheek, and then we're going to blend it out with my blush. These have such a beautiful glow to the cheek, and it's a little bit more of a subtle glow. And what I like about this is that they are buildable in pigmentation, and I'm definitely getting that same vibe that I got from the other shade as well. So maybe these are not super pigmented, but I am okay with that as long as it's buildable and it can work up to the full potential of the color. I'm okay with that. Now, while I do find these beautiful, and I told you I like the glow, these are teetering on a little too much for me. This is definitely something that I'm gonna wear a little bit more in the summer months when I like to be a little bit more glowy and showy, but I still don't find these to be quite as glowy as the ones from Juvia's Place, but absolutely gorgeous, very beautiful. This is another really good release. Like I said, the drugstore is doing amazing things out there, and this one is no exception. All right, so I went ahead and threw on a third layer just because I wanted to see how dark I could actually build it up, and if it was at any point gonna start to kind of grab and skip and do anything weird, and it absolutely did not. And I feel like the pigmentation on this is very nice, but if you're looking for a very blushy moment, these are not going to be it. So just kind of keep that in mind, but still very beautiful. All right, y'all, so that is going to complete this video. I hope y'all enjoyed it and found it super helpful, but let me know all of your thoughts down below in the comment section. Like I said, if there's a blush that I did not mention in this video, leave it in the comments so I can definitely include it in the part 2 of this video that will be coming at the end of the year. But I want to hear from you. Did you pick up any of these blush formulas? If so, which ones are your favorite? What kind of formula are you gravitated toward? What is your favorite blush color? I feel like everybody has that go-to. I want to know it all. Let's light up that comment section, have that conversation, and as usual, I want to thank you all so much for watching my video and spending your time with me. It truly does mean so much to me, and if you like this video, make sure you give it a big thumbs up before you leave. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and click on that notification bell so that you can be notified of all my future posts here on my channel. I do post quite a few videos every single week, and I wouldn't want you to miss one. But until my next video, have a good one. Bye.